Saturday night, 8 p.m. at the Lane. I'm calling it now. It has to be the start of something new. An old school glory night under the lights. Thomas Frank must now put his total trust in these kids. Gray, Bergvall, Saar, Simons. Give them the key to the spine of the team. Legs, energy, desire, with some excellent, more senior players around them. The likes of Porro, Van der Ven, Udogi, and Randall Kolo Muani. Frank needs to let go of the handbrake against a side with a terrible away record in the Premier League this season and get the fans behind this young, exciting team. This really could be a sliding doors moment for Thomas Frank and the club, and he needs to realise it. This is his Pochettino versus Villa in his first season time. Let's hope he grabs it with both hands. I'll be talking about this and all the latest Tottenham transfer news on today's episode of Daily Spurs News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. Do give this video a like if you're on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Also, come and join me on BigUp. Join my community there. It's where I do all the Tottenham watch-alongs. Details of how to are in the description box below. And if you join the community on BigUp and play the predictions game, it's a predictions game for each Spurs game where you just have to choose 6 predictions that you think are going to happen in the game, and you can win big money. Not only win big money within the game, but also be put into a draw for $25,000. That's right, you could win big. Also, as you can see from the screen, got my my amazing sponsor, okjersey.com. They sell the best current and retro shirts around at great prices. So if you want to get a great shirt, and I've got 10 of them, 10 amazing vintage Spurs retro shirts that I all got all from okjersey.com. £15 a pop, some of these shirts sell at amazing prices, and you can get 8% off with the code BARN, B-A-R-N, when you get to the checkout. That's B-A-R-N, short for Barnaby. But let's get started, and as ever, we'll begin with Tottenham transfer news. Apparently, this may not surprise many of you who know what Don Fabio Paratici is like in the window, or with the window coming up. He likes to go and look at his former clubs, and we are interested in Juventus centre-back Gleison Bremer. He is a defensive option being targeted ahead of the window, according to reports in Italy. Apparently, we're ready to make a bid of around £35 million for the Brazilian centre-half, who hasn't played very much for Juve in Serie A this season, just 4 times. Does that ring a bell, anyone? Players at Juventus who haven't played much for them, who are kind of seen as surplus to requirements? Remember Dejan Kulusevski? Remember Rodrigo Bentancur? Where it looks like Don Fabio sniffing in similar waters. Well, maybe I meant swimming in similar waters, but you can't always say the right thing at the right time. Other reports is that Tottenham are joining Manchester United and Arsenal in trying to sign Stade Rennais centre-half Jeremy Jacquet. What is the pattern here? We're looking at centre-backs. He's 20 years old. He's got 3.5 years left on his current contract. But Rennes want to keep him, but they know that if they get a bid of around £35 million for the tall, quick, strong centre-half who is comfortable with the ball at his feet, then they would be willing to let him go. As I said, interesting, lots of clubs in the Premier League, the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United, but what Tottenham can offer these young players is minutes. They will look at the likes of Lucas Bergvall and Archie Gray, who, like I said at the top, let's hope that Thomas Frank is now going to be fully behind and basically play whenever he can, because we need that energy down the middle of the team. And I don't mind this strategy of bringing more legs, more young, hungry, exciting players into the team, as long as we also offset it with players who are ready to get into that first team now. The likes of a Semenyo to offset that would be amazing this window, although Liverpool, who are having such a terrible run, also sniffing about. Another young player that Spurs are interested in is FC Midtjylland striker Franquilino Ju, who is wanted by a lot of clubs. A real wonder kid, this kid. He's been scoring for fun in Denmark. Everton also interested. The asking price around 20 to 30 million euros. So that's about 25 million pounds. Arsenal also have been mentioned in potentially being interested in him. But like I've said many times when I talk about the transfer news, at the moment, because of the kind of Moneyball-esque data-driven system of looking for players, the computers are spewing out the same names. So all the clubs are looking at the same players. But this guy, Jew, he's 21 years old, an exciting young player. And I think what Spurs will be looking to do more now than they have done in the last few years is take risks on players before they make that move into the Premier League. So if you look at someone like Houston, who went to Bournemouth, for instance, what Tottenham will not want to do now is let a player go to Bournemouth who's on their list to see how good he is and then go straight to Real Madrid. They'll be looking to get him in a bit earlier and maybe do more of what they've been doing with Luka Vuskovic, get him maybe on loan somewhere else to get his senior minutes and see how good he is against other men in top 5 European leagues, like Vuskovic is doing at Hamburg in Germany, and then bring him back to Spurs, having been on loan. And it's similar, like I said earlier in a video this week, Saliba did that when he came to Woolwich Arsenal. They put him on loan for a couple of seasons back in France, and he came back the real deal. So that is what Tottenham, I think, will be looking to do even more with some of these young players. And that's why it wouldn't surprise me if we do get some of these very young, exciting, some of the best young talents in Europe through the door in January. But like I said, also important to get some oven-ready players for the first team as well. Okay, obviously it's Fulham tomorrow night. I'm recording this 10:30 in the morning on Friday. Fulham, 8 p.m. on the Saturday. Like I said, hopefully a glory night. Thomas Frank has done his pre-match press conference. He was asked whether it was a must-win. He said, I'm very aware a top performance and a win will be helpful. I go into every game believing we will win. I need to make sure we're well prepared to pick the best possible team. What do you think the team will be? For me, I actually wouldn't mind. I'm going to predict my team at the end of this video, but I wouldn't mind if Frank kind of went in with the same team. I thought as we played against PSG, I know some of you will say, but we conceded 5 goals. Yeah, but I don't think PSG ever cut us open. They just scored 2 absolute bangers from outside the box, 1 penalty from Romero's hand, and 2 mistakes that we gave ourselves, 1 from a set piece and then 1 passing it out from the back. I thought the team played well. Fulham won't be nearly as clinical as PSG were. And I wouldn't mind if he played the same team. But if he doesn't play the same team, the key for me is stick to that 4-2-2-2 formation. So we've got players in midfield and so that we can knock the ball around. Little 1 and 2 touched patterns, triangles, stuff like that. But with the energy of those young players down the middle of the team, with the desire, with the legs of Bergvall and Gray, and maybe Sarr, but if not Sarr, maybe Simons comes in to give a little bit more creativity. Thomas Frank was asked about attacking progress, which of course is relevant to what I've just been saying. He said, we're facing a completely different game on Saturday, a game where we hopefully will be more on the ball and will need to open Fulham up. I actually think Fulham, maybe they don't have the points they want, but I've watched a lot of their games and they performed well. They've been quite unlucky with some results, but it will be a different challenge. But I'm pleased with the performance response we got from the players against Paris Saint-Germain. We did the aggression in the high pressure, the forwardness, the intensity we played with should have earned us a point or more. But a bit of randomness, some set pieces, game management, and we didn't. And that's the bit we need to learn from. Every decision I take is to do everything I can to win the next game. I'm very aware that we need to win the day after tomorrow. This was his press conference yesterday, and the day after that, and so on. Now, one thing I will say is, the other thing that I think the 4-2-2-2 formation really gave us was the cover down the middle of the park to allow the players to believe that pressing high would work. And a lot of the time during that game against PSG, you saw the fullbacks, Spence on the left and Porro on the right, pressing really high when PSG were playing it out from the back. Now, the difference against Fulham will be, well, there'll be numerous differences. As I mentioned in my post-match reaction, the pressure will be more on Spurs, as Thomas Frank alluded to there, to get on the ball, to try and open Fulham up. And Fulham, I don't think, will play it around their own goal mouth the way that PSG did. So playing it around their own goal mouth allowed us to put the high pressure on. But the reality of putting the high pressure on is if every time then Fulham get it in their fullback zone or the centre halves, they then just play it long to then try and scrap for the second balls, then we've got to be ready in our defensive midfield situation to win those second balls around the likes of Kevin Danso, Mickey van der Ven. And that is where Palhinha comes in. Bentancur played and put in, I think, a really good performance against PSG. I would probably play Palhinha instead of Bentancur, not with Bentancur for this Fulham game, to try and win those scraps, win those second balls, and then give it to the likes of Bergvall and Gray and Simons to then knock it around with each other. Bring in from the outside Porro and Udogie on the left, who I think will come in to give us balance. And then I think likely in the two, so what I'm looking at, I'm kind of giving away my predicted team here, but what I'm looking at is the back four, Danso coming in for Romero because he's suspended. And then in front of that, Palhinha and Gray. And then in front of that, the two in front of then Bergvall and Simons, 4-2-2, and then Richarlison and Kolo Muani. However, that does mean that Kudus isn't getting a game. So where do you fit Kudus in? So Gray and, what am I talking about there? Gray and Palhinha, and then Bergvall and Simons, and then, yeah, so it's whether Kudus can get in or not, whether he'll go back to his 4-3-3 to allow Kudus on the right. Let me know in the comments what you think. It is a difficult one because Kudus has been playing well, but I really do like that narrow 4-2-2-2. down the middle at work. Thomas Frank was asked about the home form. He said, I promise you we'll do everything we can to deliver, and we will do everything we can to come flying out, be positive, intense, energetic forward. But I'm also pretty sure that Fulham will do everything they can to avoid that. It's our job to perform well, and if we do that, we have every chance to win the game. This, for me, I think will be the biggest problem, the pressure from the fans on the players. And if we don't score a couple of early goals, how that will affect the players in a difficult game against Fulham, who won't, like I said, they won't play the same way as PSG, which will allow us to press high. So Tottenham are going to have to be smart on the pitch. Yes, show that energy, show that desire, but also show commitment to the cause if it's not going as well as they want it to. And listen, I've said it numerous times. Away teams love coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They see it as a lovely place to play. And you know that Fulham will put in one of their best performances of the season. Marco Silva always gets his team well drilled, and they've got some half-decent players. You know, Iwobi will want to do well against Spurs, ex-Arsenal. And let's see what happens. Frank was asked how the players feel after losing to PSG and, of course, to Arsenal. He says, for me, we look forward. We don't dwell on the past. If we do that, we get sucked into everything too much. For me, it's 24 hours after last night, meaning the PSG game. It's about taking the positives out of that game, learning from the mistakes we made, and bringing all that to Saturday's game against Fulham. He did then also talk, though, about the positive reception from the fans at Paris Saint-Germain. He said, I massively respect all of the fans. They're hugely important for us, both home and away, and I fully acknowledge and appreciate how many traveled to Paris and backed the team throughout. Then it's up to us to keep performing, keep being brave, and doing all the right things going forward, and keep adding those layers he loves to talk about. Listen, it's good that he's thanking the fans, but of course the fans were up in Paris. Not only are they on a European away day, which is brilliant, they've all been pretty well lubricated during the day, I'm sure, but also Spurs kept going ahead. Spurs kept pushing on the front foot. Spurs kept showing something in a game where we were frankly all expecting them to get absolutely pulverized. So it's a great example for me that Frank needs to take forward, especially in these home games. Get on the front foot so that the fans get behind you because they're excited by the entertainment they're watching on the pitch. Tottenham fans pay the highest season tickets pretty much in Europe, pretty much in the world, the highest home ticket prices. So they've got to be entertained. That's why you cannot go in there, especially in a game like against Fulham, but probably, in any home game, I would say now, with a double pivot of two defensive players who haven't got the legs or the forward thinking to really beat men or play between the lines passes. We can't be doing that anymore. We've got to be more forward thinking at home. And frankly, and listen, yes, maybe some of you are thinking you're being a bit of a hypocrite here because under Ange, you were complaining about how we would concede the same goal because we'd have too many men forward. It's about finding the middle ground there. It's gone from gung-ho to too pragmatic, and he's got to find that middle ground. And we know there's a middle ground to be found because under Pochettino, we were ruthless at home. We hardly conceded any goals and we scored loads of goals. So it's a matter of being ruthless. One thing in terms of trying to work out that the players to fit in that 4-2-2-2 that he could think about doing, that a lot of people who I really respect in the Spurs kind of tactico community, is could he play Kudus deeper in a central role as one of the central midfielders? Maybe alongside Bergvall and Gray with Palhinha behind them. Because Kudus is so good getting on the ball, he could become like our Moussa Dembele. You can't knock him off it. And he does play in a similar role, a kind of withdrawn 10 for Ghana. I know that. So that's something to think about as well. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. As I said, though, don't forget our captain, Christian Romero, is injured for this game. Not injured, sorry. He's suspended for this game, but he'll be back for the Newcastle game. We've got Newcastle away again in the week. But if we can get a good result and a good performance against Fulham, I think we could go to Newcastle thinking, well, why can't we put in a performance up at St. James's Park similar to what we did at the Parc des Princes against Paris Saint-Germain? Newcastle are great at home, but they're not as strong as Paris Saint-Germain. So can we do something similar and get two amazing results on the spin? Frank was asked whether Archie Gray and Lucas Bogle could start together in the Premier League now. He said, I think if you perform like you did against the European champions away from home, you're ready to start in the Premier League. So that is good intel, I think. Good news coming out of the camp for me, that he has seen something there. That's what I was talking about in the top of this video. This is the sliding doors moment and the time for Thomas Frank to be like, okay, I'm going to invest in these kids. And when they're fit, and don't forget, Bergvall had his concussion and Archie Gray had an ankle knock, but when they're fit, he wants that energy, he wants that desire, he wants those legs down the middle of the team. Frank was also asked about feeling the importance of keeping calm under pressure. He said, I trust my experience, I trust my staff, my players, the club, the leadership. That's key for us to progress as a structure. Just keep doing that, keep believing, keep working. Always one more conversation, one more video clip, one more meeting. one more training session, constantly try to improve bits. Know where you want to go, try to improve the culture and the style of play every single day. That's the key. On those days where you perform badly, you feel pain, you're angry. Yesterday it was painful in a different way, meaning after the PSG game. It was more irritating, but a better feeling because we competed. I agree with him on that. He said, I saw more of the character of the team I want to build. We just have to keep going. I agree with that. And now we've got to put that together against Fulham and start a run in the Premier League of good performances. Sure, with wins as well and good results as well, ideally, but good performances to allow the fan base to believe in what Thomas Frank is doing. I think his communication in the press and clearly to his players is really good. I think we all believe in that. But now we need to believe that he's learning which players he can trust. He's learning which players he needs down the spine of that team. And for me, now it's Bergvall, it's Gray, it's Simons, it's Sarr. It's picking from around them. I would even add Matisse Tell where needed there. Add Kudus, obviously, because he's a bit of sprinkle dust in there of magic. But also, I've seen enough from Tell in the last few weeks that he should be trusted as well in terms of young, energetic players who want to press high, who want to work hard, who aren't just going to fall into the same traps that a lot of Spurs players have over the last few years of just being like, things are getting difficult. I'm just going to throw it in a bit. Sorry to say it, but we've seen it from a lot of our players, and we need these young players to now be the next generation and take it forward. Frank was also asked about the injuries to Kulusevski and Solanke, and still no word on Solanke really and when he'll be back. So I don't think he's going to be back this calendar year realistically. But Thomas Frank said this: it's part of it. We get judged when we walk into a fantastic club like this. There are expectations every day on every performance. That's part of the game. No problem with that. I'd love to have those players ready to play for us, but they're unavailable. Other players need to step up. It's much easier to say they're in when available rather than put a time frame on it. So for me, that doesn't sound good, does it? When do you think realistically Dominic Solanke will be back? Because Kulusevski, they're talking about maybe December, but it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see either of them for the rest of this calendar year. Before I go on to the rest of the news and my prediction for tomorrow's game, here's a word from our sponsors.
Get yourself to okjersey.com where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent Black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, 100 quid, then you get £8 off, not to be sniffed at. Get yourself to okjersey.com to pick one up, or if you're too lazy to type in the website, just scan the QR code that's on the left of me throughout this video. Enjoy.
Okay, guys, make sure if you love vintage Spurs jerseys, I'm saying jerseys, I'm not American, but Spurs tops, Spurs kits, or even the kits that they've got right now, do go to okjersey.com. You can get 8% off, and they are amazing deals, and they're really fantastic shirts. Before I go into my predictions, so I just want to bring you some of the quotes that Thomas Frank gave after that PSG game, because I think they're important in terms of getting where he is in his head, and I haven't done a video since. He said, today I saw more identity of the team that we want to create, much more character, personality, and aggressiveness. I completely agree. That's why I'm kind of borderline excited about this sliding doors moment. I think it could be his Pochettino moment. And when I talk about the Pochettino moment, I talk about when he bombed out Yunus Kabul, when he bombed out some of the old guard, the likes of Adebayor, kind of halfway through his first season. He was like, we cannot trust these players. They've got the mental scars of Tottenham from before. And he trusted in the young players. And this is his moment for this. He gave Bergvall and Gray that start in a cauldron at PSG. And they stood up and they were brave and they performed with Pape Sarr as well. He had a more difficult game, but we know what Pape Sarr can do. And if we let him grow with those players, then I think this could be amazing for Spurs. He also said this: I'm pleased with the performance against PSG. It was the reaction I wanted from the players, from the team. We've been working very hard on that. The players, the staff, me, to make sure we responded well and bounced back, because that's crucial after a bad display, meaning against Arsenal. And this is the key. This sliding doors moment could mean that we never have a game again against Arsenal and Chelsea like we did this season. And we saw that before Pochettino, under Tim Sherwood, under AVB, getting absolutely smashed by our biggest rivals. And now I hope he's seen enough where he will not go into another one of those games, Thomas Frank, assuming he gets enough time to have more of those games, with players who are just going to roll over. He's going to go in there with young players with desire, who believe in themselves and want to grow. That's why I feel confident. And I'll be honest with you guys, if he goes against what I'm talking about, and tomorrow for the Fulham game, he picks Polinia and Bentancur in central midfield as just a double pivot, and then he just goes with Brennan Johnson on the left and Kudus on the right and one striker, honestly, I'll be apoplectic. And you'll see it. So I'm hopeful that from some of these quotes he's given about Bergvall and Gray and seeing the more aggressiveness and the way they bounce back, I'm hopeful that him and his coaching staff now have been like, that's never going to happen again. We're going to go with the youth. We're going to really believe in this youth. And if he does that, you wait, you'll hear the crowd tomorrow get behind them, because the crowd at White Hart Lane will give those young players more support for longer than they do to the likes of, Richarlison, unfortunately. He scored a goal again. He scored 3 and 3. He actually looked a lot better. I should say he looked a lot better with Kolo Muani alongside him. And that's why I like that 4-2-2-2 formation with two proper strikers. Because it also means if those midfielders are making extra runs, like Archie Gray did for that brilliant first goal and getting crosses in, both Kolo Muani and Richarlison are excellent in the air, but also they're better at holding the ball up when they've got someone near them to flick it round the corner to. And it's almost with Richarlison, I felt the other night, and it will be more difficult in the Premier League because it's more physical. But Richarlison having someone near him kind of almost gave him more confidence when he was holding off his man. More confidence that if he just gets the first touch on it, then he can lay it off. And so that's why I would stick with those two up front as well. And it just feels like with that 4-2-2-2, we've got more options straight down the middle of the park. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Frank did talk about the number of goals conceded, obviously, against PSG. It was 5. He said, of course, when we concede 5, it's never good. Especially the third and fourth goals. We cannot concede goals like that. It can't happen if we want to win a game like this or get something out of a game like this. I think that's fair enough. He was also asked about Kolo Muani. He said, I think today we saw what hopefully we can expect. As I said the whole time, he came in late with no preseason. He wasn't fit. He had 2 setbacks, especially with a dead leg and then a broken jaw. Don't forget, he's playing with a broken jaw. Today, we saw more of what he can do. He's still not top fit, so hopefully he'll come to the fore more. Again, he talked about Gray and Bergvall. He said, very impressive. 2 young players. I've said from the beginning that I believe a lot in. So this is my predicted team for Fulham. I know I talked about it earlier, but I've written it down here. So I might contradict what I said earlier, but I have found a way to get Kudus in. So this is it. Vicario, Porro, Udogi for the balance on the left, Van der Ven, and Danso comes in at centre-back for Romero. Van der Ven will be captain. Then I'm going Polinia, defensive midfielder, instead of Bentancur, so he's got full legs because Bentancur played the whole game against PSG. Then Polinia and Gray as the first 2 in front of the back 4. Then Bergvall and Simons as the second 2. And then Kudus, Richarlison, and Randall Kolo Muani. Yeah, that's 11. So it's kind of Kudus and Simons, and then Richarlison and RKM. So Kudus and Simons playing as 2 10s ahead of Gray and Bergvall. Have I picked too many players? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I picked 12 players. That's how much I'm struggling with this. So basically, one of Kudus and Simons cannot play. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Kudus instead of Simons in that 10. You can't pick 12 players. That's why I was struggling with it earlier in the episodes. For those of you who have stuck with me throughout this entire episode, thank you for your watch time and your attention. I appreciate it. Feel free to put in the comments what an absolute idiot I am trying to pick 12 players. That's how hard football management is. Anyway, my prediction for the game, 2-1 to Spurs. I don't think it'll be easy, but if he goes with this attacking approach, and obviously if he plays Kudus instead of Simons, he's got Simons to bring off the bench, and Kudus has more of that physicality to hold up the ball as well. That is the team I would go for, with the youth down the middle and then the likes of Simons and Sarr to come on for more legs later in the game. Let me know what team you would go for. Guys, enjoy the rest of your Friday, and let's hope that it can be a really big performance tomorrow night under the lights against Fulham. Don't forget to give this video a like if you haven't already. Do subscribe to the channel, especially if you like content creators who pick 12 players for an 11-man game. And also, of course, if you want to get a jersey, go to okjersey.com, a football kit. They're really great, and this is how.
Get yourself to okjersey.com, where you can buy the best football shirts around, including this one I'm wearing now, and of course, the absolutely magnificent black Spurs away shirt. And as if that wasn't enough, if you go onto their website and like the look of one of the shirts there, choose your size, pick the Champions League badge for the sleeve as well if you're that way inclined, then go to checkout and type the code BARN into the coupon section. That's BARN as in short for Barnaby. And when you do, you'll get a whopping 8% off your purchase. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 8% means if you've spent, say, and let's face it, I'm being optimistic here, 100 quid, then you get £8 off, not to be sniffed at. Get yourself to okjersey.com to pick one up, or if you're too lazy to type in the website, just scan the QR code that's on the left of me throughout this video.